Well, hello there. So I read the book, Milo Morgan's um, Mutant Message Down Under, and so when I was reading the book, this book about Australia and the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, I kind of was a little confused at some parts. It was kind of vague meaning. It was really all over the place, the book. The narrative was all over the place. So I was curious to what other people were saying about this book, and I know this book was published in 2009, so I'm a little late to the party, but it's a good book. I think it's still relevant, definitely. Things haven't changed that much. Besides, it was fiction, so won't change. Only thing that would change is non-fiction. Like, obviously, if you read a book about the Salem witch trials, it's not relevant like today. So I was curious to what other people were saying about this book, and so I looked online at the reviews, what other people are saying, and the first review I read said, "Oh my god, I can't believe someone exploited this already misunderstood minority group. I wish I could give this book negative stars. It's the only book I ever considered burning. If you must get it, which I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, get it out of the library because Marlo Morgan and our publishers definitely do not deserve your book. And there's so many misconceptions that's spreading. I just couldn't live with myself giving away to Goodwill or to some charity to spread all of this misinformation. It's like a terrible book." And the next review was like, "Why is anyone debunking a work of fiction?" So a common thing I saw of people saying like negative reviews were that only a person who had never been to Australia would be entertained by the book, and I guess, well, that's definitely true. But it's a great way to start learning about Aboriginal people if you can't go to Australia. So, yeah, again, the book's Mutant Message Down Under by Marla Morgan. I'll put a link in the description. And, so this book was very, controversial judging by the reviews. Like, I feel like the people who gave the negative reviews were just people who didn't read the introduction, because the introduction is really where she puts her disclaimer saying, like, this is in nonfiction, it's not truth about the Aboriginals. It's the introduction, she set out the disclaimer saying, "This book's about beingness. You won't understand Aboriginal life that much better, but you will understand what it means to be." And so that's the thing about people who don't read the introduction or the epilogue or the prologue. I know it kind of seems like, if you can't tell me in the main story, then why are you telling me before or after? Tell me in the story. But the introduction and the epilogue and prologue are just as important, or at least in this book they were. Some places they're more important than others. So that's the lesson learned from this. Because, I mean, she does say that's fiction and other, like, the book's labeled fiction, and the introduction says it's fiction. I mean, it'd be pretty hard to believe that the story Marla Morgan made up would be nonfiction, because she says some pretty far-fetched stuff. Mutant Message Down Under by Marla Morgan. Yeah, the narrative's about this woman who, she's from America, but her job gets moved to Australia. She's a holistic healer, dealing with things like acupuncture and hospice. I like the acupuncture part. I've been thinking about acupuncture lately a lot, actually. So, in the book, the woman's job moved to Australia, and she lives in Australia for a while, and then she starts getting involved with the Aboriginal youth in the cities, because she sees they're in pretty sordid conditions. They're underprivileged. They're not underclass, so they're kind of, I'll say, the untouchables of that society, kind of. Not really, but, they're kind of being given a sour or bad hand by society. So, good thing is that I also had this book to back it up. This is Dream Keepers by Harvey Arden. It's also about the Aboriginal Australians, and this one's a non-fiction. So, I read all that fiction that Marla Morgan put out, and then filtered out all the non-true stuff, the complete bullshit stuff, with reading this. So I knew what was actually real. I mean, Marla Morgan said that that Aboriginal Indians believed in divine oneness, or that there are no mistakes in life, or there are no accidents, there are no freaky people, there are no freaks. There are only things people don't understand, that humans don't understand. And she said the Aboriginals, would do things before eating an animal, would just ask from, God or divine consciousness or whatever for their food to be brought to them. They'd say, if it's in the greatest good of all living things, just bring it to us. And she talks about using her intuition a lot, which I like. I think people should really follow their intuition more. And so, even though Marla Morgan might make up some stuff, she does talk about Rainbow Snake, and this talks about Rainbow Snake too, this non-fiction book. So, yeah, definitely has a lot of basis on Aboriginal culture, and I guess it's sort of realistic. It kind of be pretty hard for what Marla Morgan wrote to actually be considered that would actually happen, but it's not so crazy. And actually, on the first page of this book, it can probably be summed up what the Aboriginals believe in this one poem at the beginning. This poem was given when Harvey Arden, the writer, asked a Aboriginal man, Ted Carlton, what he would want the white people to hear from him. He gave the poem, "Hear you, mob. I'm an Aboriginal. I'm an Australian. I'm a Marwoong. We're all one family, all together. We human beings. All one big mob." So they're definitely trying to get the message across about divine consciousness, or that we're more alike than we like to think, or why are they being labeled as a minority group or being labeled as other, like, throughout society, especially in America and places like Australia or Europe, we shouldn't isolate or segregate these minority groups because they may look different, but they're still the same. I mean, we're all people, and yeah, that's definitely the point Aboriginals are trying to get across about divine oneness or consciousness, or how everything's really one and the same, or everything's just a kind of projection of everything else. Because, I mean, Marlon Morgan talks about that in the book, how the Aboriginals would use intuition to bring things to them because they know that every plant and every area, like, how the Aboriginals find out where the scarce water is in the desert. They would just use their intuition, knowing that it's already part of me, so they'll be brought by God or divine consciousness or whatever they believe in. So yeah, I think her book, Mutant Message, Down Under, was definitely more about environmentalism than Aboriginal life. To me, I feel like it was just her trying to set out this, get the point across that we should all work together because we're all humans working together for a common goal instead of, being all scared about yeah, the people she refers to throughout the book are as mutants. Like, the reason it's called Mutant Message Down Under is it's kind of a message to the mutants, or what she refers to as mutants throughout the most of the story. What she calls the mutants, or what the Aboriginals call the mutants, are the white people who came and took their land from them, or the Europeans, the foreigners, because Aboriginals are referred to, the Aboriginal Australians are referred to throughout both Marlon Morgan's fiction book and this non-fiction book as the true people, or the traditional people, because they did stick to traditional customs, or a lot of times they talk about the difference between black fella and white fella, because you might not know this, but Aboriginal Australians do have black skin, almost as dark as Africans. So, and we know that the human race did start from Africa, and I mean, Australia is kind of it's not Australia, obviously, but I feel like from these books you can tell that they mostly have the same culture from Africa. When humans were leaving Africa, Australia was probably closer because back then it was closer to the time of Pangea. Because, I mean, how would humans get there if the land wasn't really attached? We didn't have cruise liners back then or anything. So, yeah, what she calls the mutants are the people that went farther away from that traditional culture or the African type of climate, or ecosystem, because she talks about the people that go to Europe and totally different climates and totally different, it's like a different planet with totally different plants and animals in Europe as opposed to Africa. She refers to them as the mutants because they're really originally were part of the traditional people or shared the same culture, same background, but they change over time. And she talks about, yeah, the farther away they got, the more they changed their ideas and had totally that's why the Aboriginal and African culture looks so foreign to what she refers to as mutants, or the white people, or not just white people, I guess. I guess you would say some Asians in different regions, or I don't know who else you calls mutants, I guess Americans. But more about North America than South America. So, if you haven't read it, I mean, it came out in 2009, so it's about time everyone started reading it. It was a good book. I liked it. Mutant Message Down Under by Marlo Morgan. Again, that's fiction, so take it with a pinch of salt. She says, like, I feel like all the people that had positive reviews on it said, like, I love that book. It was an underground bestseller, because it kind of was, and tell why a lot of people liked it. But, they said, like, I took it with a pinch of salt, because that's what she tells you to do in the beginning of the book. So it's not like all true stuff about the Aboriginal Australians, but it is a good way to kind of change your mindset. It's an easier way to get a personality change than, when I go whitewater rafting, the people always tell you, the guides always tell you, make sure your helmet's covering your frontal lobe, or else you might end up with a personality change by the end of the rafting trip. And of course, if you need a personality change, then just forget that part and leave your frontal lobe wide open. So, yeah, I think these books about Aboriginal Australians, like this one, Dream Keepers, are a good way to look at the world. Again, I think Marla Morgan's book was more about environmentalism than Aboriginal Australians. And you should go check it out. And if you see that on my wall, that's actually the Aboriginal flag of Australia. Because, of course, Aboriginal Australia and what most people think of when you talk about Australia are two different things. They're like two different worlds. There's the traditional people, or the true people, that kept to the traditional ties, and they were kind of like the Native Americans of Australia. They pretty much experienced the same things of the white settlers trying to convert them or annihilate them, or try to make it as hard as possible for them to preserve their culture. But they persevered. The red represents bloodshed, the black represents their black skin and the yellow just represents like the outback, the sun of Australia, because I mean we know it's the same sun as you see everywhere else, but well, in Australia, you'll find out that in Australia it is so much hotter. When people talk about it being hot in Australia, it's a totally different meaning than from here in America or anywhere else, really. Like, it's so hot in Australia that the earth is stained red a lot. Like, it's mostly red clay or dusty. It's so dry. So, yeah, everyone should learn from the Aboriginal people. I admire how they were very good at knowing which herbs were very special in the outback, or at least would help them survive. And being able to find water in the desert, I mean, it's incredible. Like, no one could survive as long as Aboriginal traditionals could in the outback. So, yeah, you should read that book.